Thank you, Louise. I'm not sure I deserved all that, but we'll see. So tonight I'm going to talk about a topic that has consumed me a little bit for the last few months. Come on in. Sorry. Come and join us. As I say, this topic's been consuming me a lot over the last few months, and we're changing our business a lot because of the state of the industry. And I'll sort of explain a little bit why. So for those that are lucky enough to have not met me before, I'm the founder of The Distance, as Louise said. We're a digital product agency based here in York. We're trying to work out how to do all this stuff for the last 15, 16 years, successfully or not. We have been lucky enough to work with some incredible brands. We've built well over 150 apps these days, and we've been doing it since the first iPhone. Our history is mobile, but we're doing a lot more digital, starting to get into all the AI stuff, and we don't do websites. That's not our kettle of fish. There's plenty of other guys in this room that will help with that sort of stuff, but we're very much focused on delivering something that's utilitarian and product-wise and help deliver a value to whoever your user base is. But enough about us. So the last few years have been pretty brutal if any of you are from agency land. Spencer Gallagher, if anyone knows who that is, who runs a company called Cactus, they're an M&A company, but he talks a lot about agency. And a post he put on LinkedIn for probably October, November last year, he reckoned he was seeing an digital agency, I mean that's a large scope, like there's everyone doing marketing and everything else in between, was closing every other day, which is pretty scary numbers really. And I'm pleased to say, touch wood, that we're still alive. We've been through the rocky road like everybody else has over the last many years, and it's down to all sorts of reasons. There isn't one specific thing you can point out that's causing all these problems. It's a dozen of them. Did you know there was 70 plus global general elections last year? The biggest ever, I believe. So politically, the world has been in a state of unrest ever since the pandemic. We started to see seeds of growth and everything else at the back end of last year, and I'm pleased to say we're seeing that again, even growing more this year, but it's all a bit late for a lot of companies, unfortunately. A company I know, just in Wales, another app company, closed at last week over Easter weekend, which I'm gutted to hear, but it's sad. And in fact, I've just had a message from someone to tell me another company I'm very close to just gone into liquidation today. So it's been a tough world in the agency space. And this is led by all. This is a big part of it, and it has been growing for years and years. The availability to get access to offshore resource brings the price of projects down, but not necessarily the quality up. So it's cost, and we've got cost of living, cash reserves, post-pandemic, they just don't exist anymore. So these last few years have just drained everyone's bank balances. And so everyone has been tripping over their feet. And the last point is, agencies, we're always, it's a bit like the old cobbler shoes analogy, right? We're not good at working on ourselves very much. We're always too busy doing stuff. So the agency world has actually been quite slow to adopt to sort of AI, automation and stuff like that. We sell it all day long to our clients, but us ourselves, we don't really look inward too often. However, last year, if you're in the agency world, there's a thing called bench press, and every year they do a massive annual survey of agency owners. And their study this year, they're saying that 95% of agencies are already adopting AI. So we're moving in the right direction. It's just taken us. I like to think I'm on the pulse of digital and technology. It's in my blood. Cut me open, I've got ones and noughts inside. But it's taken me until now, literally the last few months before I've really got into the AI stuff. I feel so far behind the curve, really. So what I'm going to talk about today is what I thought was branding digital transformation 2.0, but it seems that someone's well experienced, probably one of the big consultants has already been talking about for years, and it's bringing in lots of different things. I'm not just talking about AI. It's the software development tools that we've been using for years, all that sort of stuff that we're all used to, putting good tech into our businesses. There'll be grants for this sort of stuff across the businesses for years. API integrations, which I'm going to assume most of us know what an API is, the stuff that glues technology together. Then building those sort of things into automated workflows, so adding this system to that system, systems like Zapier and if this then that and various other things in the middle, joining these things together. And then obviously in the last few years, explosion of AI is really then the next level of this. So this is moving from our paper world into a digital world, and then AI is adding to that. But the big point of difference here is we're now thinking about the user. Before we were talking about building efficiencies, digitizing things, everything else to make things better. Now we're actually thinking, right, how do we make all this better for the actual people using the software? So, does this work? Yeah. So from us, from our perspective, so these are our sort of core departments within our business. And we're only a small team, so these only have a couple of people in some of the cases, so don't think that they're massive teams by any means. I've been trying to think, so in my spare room at home, my wife calls it my jail cell because that's what it was like during the pandemic. I've got these static whiteboard sheets across every single, well, I did it in the pandemic, every single wall was covered, and so it looked like the scribblings of an absolute insane jailbird. But at the moment I've got 6 of them on my wall with all these topics, and every day I'm scribbling another idea that is how we can improve something in one of those different departments in the business. Now, whilst that's not my responsibility for all of these things, I know very little about marketing. However, I actually have the responsibility for marketing. I'm very much stuck in the sales side of things. Operations, I'm terrible at. Product, again, I've got much more creative people in our team that do that sort, and we had a whole day talking about it today. Development, I'm all over this one, and testing is the one thing I'm terrible at too. So I'm just going to sort of go through some of the areas where we're using these sort of technologies to improve our efficiency, effectiveness, allow us to compete back up to try and beat these sort of things. How do we compete with offshore, with UK talent, UK quality, but at the price point that people are now expecting when we're talking about an international service market? So from a marketing perspective, I've built a, a Google dashboard thingy. Google, someone help me. What's their Google thing for dashboard? Anyway, one of them.
Like the Power BI that Microsoft do.
Like Power BI, yeah. The Google one. Looker, thank you, sorry. Which pulls data from all these things. Now, I spent ages writing code for that. If I'd got Cursor when I did that, I'd have probably done it of an evening, but there we are, right? Our marketeer, she uses AI for all sorts of different things, and she was quite light on the detail, but I know she does, she just don't admit it. But she does a lot of our campaign planning, she does our market research with it, she does a lot of topic generation for when we're writing blogs. She doesn't know all the things that's going on in the dev world, for example, but she can look at the news and everything else, and you'll see on our LinkedIn, she's doing a great job to produce a lot of great content for us. And it's deep. She'll get AI to scaffold content out for us, but then go and speak to our team to make sure it's all valid and it's not right. And it's not just written by the AI, it's written by her. She then uses that back through, repasses it back through the AI with our brand guidelines, our tone of voice, to then make sure that it is aligned. So therefore, she doesn't expect another member of the team to sign off from a brand perspective how that lands. And then she'll run it back again through to ask it to optimize it for search, for keyword internal linking, and all sorts of things. So we have one person, a marketeer, she works 3 days a week for us, and AI is basically the rest of her team. And so therefore, instead of having 2 or 3 people working, her and ChatGPT are like this. And I'm quite happy to pay a £20 a month subscription fee for it, because it could easily spend a lot more. But it's all this sort of stuff with quote statistics. You can get those things instantly, within seconds, and fill that content with quality, not using it as the actual AI copy generation stuff. Sales, so this is the stuff I do more these days. We kind of did try an outbound engine. Our outbound engine actually is put on hold at the moment, but this is the sort of stuff we were using it for. So we fill it with our LinkedIn contacts. It would then be able to evaluate them, look through our CRM, identify the right sort of people we're targeting for the right content. It would then allow us to build automated workflows for our LinkedIn messages. So it would send a message, connect with that person. Once they'd connected, it would send a follow-up message. I mean, I started a campaign, I sent it to about 200 people, something like that, and quite a few people went, this is just a bot. But I was quite blunt, it's like, this is a bot sending you a connection request if you're open to a connection and just a call. And some people just said, no thanks. Quite fair. So that's why I was quite frank about it in the first place, because there was no way I was going to try and pretend that my AI automation was me, because it's not the way I am. I mean, we're all probably doing this. How many people, I mean, everyone call we're in, right? There's more note takers half the time than there are humans. But these sort of things, we use Otter. What's everyone using? Otter? Read. Yeah. They're all much of a muchness, right? Yeah, okay, it's all built in, right, I'm sure. Google Gemini, yeah. It's all there. But you'll see, I mentioned this a few times. So for me, when I'm doing a sales call, half the time most of the time I want to just be there, present, talking to the customer, listening, trying to understand, adding value to the conversation. I don't really want to be sat either behind my laptop or just typing away, right? I'm glad that AI is taking notes, because when I've got 4 leads in a week and they are all going to take me half a day to help process, I'll have forgotten what happened in the first call than the 4th one. So I now have the opportunity to just ask, look at the transcript, tell me what the MVP is, what does the features look, what's the budget, what's the date it is delivering. So it can answer all those sort of things. It can also identify the scope. So I can say, okay, well, that's what they think they want, this is what I think they want. What do you think an MVP is? And it'll just go and look at the market and go, okay, well, you want a travel app that's going to do ticketing, fine. These are the other features that you probably want to consider. So it helps me create a more rounded proposition to our customers from the first place. And it'll go as far as effort calculations and ballparks and things like that. So I can do my maths in my pricing sheet and go, is this about right? And it gives me another level of confidence when we're doing the process. And then I can then go, oh, hang on, we've got a template for this and how we're going to present our things back to a client. We've got all this stuff. Here's my thoughts on it too. I want it in this format. So it breaks down the user personas. It gives me what each of the personas are in the project, what the success criteria for those personas. Then it'll break down what the MVP of the features are from a front end, from a back end, what the services, what the risks are. It just helps do all the grey matter thinking. It would normally take me a day, 2 days to work out. Like that. Done. Great. The next thing I need is to generate the deck for me, and then I'm redundant. But we're not quite there yet. Operations. Our team gave me 1 bullet point about this, so I've made a lot of this up because I know that this is the sort of stuff they're doing. But we have a platform called Forecast. Anyone else use Forecast? Your project management? No, you've not come across Forecast? No? So Forecast we stumbled across. It's brilliant. The information people can get out of Forecast is incredible. It's got levels of AI in it. So Forecast allows us to basically do resource management. It has full ticket management. So if you're a Jira user, it has the equivalent of like the Jira ticketing stuff in it. We don't use that, we use Jira, but it's got all that sort of stuff, but it plugs into Zero and everything else. So it's an easy way for us to see budgets, over budgets, under budgets, what profit is, what the value charging is. Lots of great stuff. Gemma can pull out incredible reports within seconds about our projects, which is great. And then tying that to all of our other systems they do as well. So that's not AI. I mean, there is AI in Forecast, but we're not using it actively. It can do, so for example, we can say, here's our resource plan for the next 6 months, here's a potential project. It can try and anticipate when we need to hire or start hiring to facilitate that sort of growth, which we're going to get back to that at some point this year, I'm sure. Again, our call note taking, every week we have a call with a client. All those calls get recorded, so it's easy for our project managers to reflect back on what the minutes are, what the actions are, everything else. If they missed anything, it's all there to be accessed. They use it for, so that's one thing that they do use Forecast AI for. If the guys are estimating tickets, it has a concept of what all of our tickets have looked like in the past. So if we've got a ticket that's 4 hours, and they've seen that same ticket, because we have a template of tickets for all projects, typically takes 8 hours, it'll say, your devs are underestimating this stuff. You probably want to address that. And then this idea of a prod bot, I'll talk about that in a second. And then our product team, so this is the bit that we spent a lot today talking about, is how we can streamline our discovery processes. So typically a discovery process for us takes about 3 months, workshops, wireframing, everything else. This is where we're going to get the best efficiencies out of AI. So anyone else know what a mermaid diagram is? Mermaid code? Basically, like, think of your bulleted hierarchy of what an app might look like. Well, mermaid code is basically a nice technical way of writing it, but it'll draw you nice pretty diagrams and flow diagrams. So having your sort of app user flow written in the mermaid diagram, AI can process that really well. It can say, okay, here's your app hierarchy, great. Mobbing is just a collection of designs of screens from all the leading apps. Give AI a user flow and a ton of best practice screenshots. Hello, we've got wireframes from any app you need. So that's where what we're playing with at the moment, because what we want to do is go, okay, there's 2 days worth of work, but we just need now to review that, tail it back, customize it back to what the client needs, rather than having to spend all the time doing that. We need another login screen, we need another password reset screen, we need another settings screen. So it's really going to make a big difference to our discovery process. But, I'll get to that in a minute. Again, being able to refer back to all the calls, they can listen to all the sales calls, or record the kickoff meeting. It just gives us a reference to everything that we might have missed in the past. We spent hours writing documentation up to this point. Don't need to write any documentation anymore. You've got the wireframes, go at it. Great, here's a template for how we write documentation. You can do this for us now, all the boring stuff. And then our head of product is dyslexic. This is going to save him a ton of stress. So all he needs to do is now go, actually, yeah, that has written what I want you to do. I'll just change that because there's some nuance there. He doesn't have to spend hours doing stuff that he finds really hard. So it's brilliant for him. And yeah, we can tell it can look over all of our previous estimates, our ticket effort, things like that, in order to re-estimate this stuff for us, to help validate what we're doing is right. And this is where we're trying to get to. So this is great. We've got a new wireframes. Well, hang on, how do we get from wireframes to code without costing us a lot of days, months, weeks of dev time? So we're in the process of, I built, Cursor is that good, I wrote a Figma plugin in about half an hour whilst I was having a coffee the other morning. My dog was watching Gigantosaurus on TV. I wrote a plugin that uses a popular UI library which is in a Figma setup, and it's got a code base. And I said, well, I want the code for that component there in React Native. It doesn't do React Native out of the box. And half an hour later, I had a relatively good. If I spent another day building that, we've got this. There's a button. Click. Right, there's the snippet of code our devs need for that screen. Rounded corners, styling, everything done. And we'll export the theme, the typography, the colours. So that's our next big step. Is we're not planning on replacing the devs by any means. Well, not yet. But we'll hopefully get to a point where we make their life even easier. So therefore, we're doing design reviews like, oh, that button's this shape and that button's that shape, and it's just, they missed it because it's human eye looking at it, right? They're just going to copy, paste. Buttons all look the same, themes look the same across everything. And now this is the bit I spent all my hours and hours geeking out over many evenings in the last few months. So we've really doubled down on Cursor. You must be all familiar with Cursor. If you're not, your team should be using Cursor, in my opinion. It's a co-pilot. It's a version of Visual Studio Code built with Anthropic tech, and Sonnet 7 is the best way to go these days. That basically allows you to just do tons of stuff. It's really good for doing back-end code, in my opinion. Front-end, it's still got a long way to go. But what we've done is, we don't actually read, it's technically not a mono-repo. What we have is a folder structure. So we have our front-end code, our back-end code, and our CMS, everything else. We then have a documentation folder, which has all the feature documentation, everything else in it. And we have some other bits and pieces, like a developer guide, various other bits, and it's all in a folder. So Cursor, and I'm not going to dwell on AI, that's not today's talk, but one of the biggest things for AI and benefit of is memory and context. So in the context, we can give it all the feature docs and all those other things. And so when we say, okay, we want you to build this screen out and create a CRUD interface for managing points of interest in an app. It can read the feature doc, know exactly what fields we need. It knows how to build something in React Admin because it's got access to the web documentation. It can see my Supabase instance. And within minutes, I've got scaffolded out SQL database script, all the UI in React Admin and all the stuff in between to join it all together. And it's probably going to work. So being a recovering developer, I'm really enjoying vibe coding right now. So yeah, we're smashing hours. I did a 3-hour ticket in 15 minutes the other day. So then a bug comes up and a guy who's estimated 2 hours takes 8 hours on. It's still a balancing act, but it's really going to make a massive difference. Already is making a massive difference. But what also helps is we have a product called the Core. This is the tech that we've been developing for well over 10 years now. Because it's got structure and consistency, AI can use it better. So we're not saying just go and do stuff without whatever you think is best practice. We're saying here's our best practice for how we do stuff. And so therefore we get the benefits. So our tech has a load of stuff. I've got another slide about that in a second, for security and all sorts in it. But then we're also trying to reduce the number of libraries and stuff we use. So going forward, we're going to deliver a lower price point project service, which is specifically using one UI library. Because we can keep that one UI library, we can move from Figma to Dev quicker, and Cursor and everything else can be more consistent. It knows how to work with that library. We're not trying to do too much bespoke stuff anymore. I mean, the Coding Copilot, that's all our MCPs, and using integration. So even Figma has an MCP. So we can ask the tools to look at the design technically and make judgments from it, and then help build the screen from that. MCPs are a big thing that are going to have a huge impact. So I won't dwell on it, but an MCP, I've got my AI, it knows the stuff. I've got lots of other systems which have APIs that I might want access to. The MCP is like the connector that says, we don't care how complex your API is, we're going to make it really simple for whatever AI you want to go and talk to it. So if you've got a HubSpot CRM, there's an MCP for that. You want to get access or post something to LinkedIn, there's an MCP for that. We've got an MCP for our Confluence, we've got an MCP for Figma. It's a model context protocol. It's a thing from Anthropic, but it's the way AIs connect to any API, basically. And it has like rules and tools and things like that. But you're going to hear a lot about MCPs, I'm sure, in the future. And then we've streamlined a lot with CI/CD. There's not much AI in there, but we actually have lots of other things built into there from our testing stuff. Well, I'll talk about in a second. So this is our tech stack. We use the Core. So we build everything with React, with Expo. From a front-end perspective, for our low-budget stuff, we're bedded down in Superbase because it's everywhere now. But otherwise, we build everything bespoke with Nest.js, host it in serverless, Azure, AWS, wherever. And then we use a thing called React Admin to build out the back-end systems. So I got AI to find all those logos for me this morning, which is quite good. So they do a bad job, to be honest. ChatGPT-4, whatever it is, finally worked out to do images well. And then finally, our testing side of things. Now, this is the sort of stuff that we're doing, but I have a bigger vision for this. So when our code gets submitted, we're using SonarQube. SonarQube is evaluating pull requests and checking for quality from our devs. So our devs get confidence that what the code they're writing is actually decent, which is usually a human job. So we still have humans reviewing stuff, but we have SonarQube reviewing stuff all the time. We have our humans reviewing things a lot less. We're consistently checking for security issues. So there's another service called Sync, S-Y-N-K, that also pulls through the repos on pull requests, and it'll continually send us warnings if it's identified that there is some form of security issue in some dependency deep down in your tech stack. It'll highlight that and show you where you need to patch your higher things or whatever it is. So that just gives us confidence that all the third-party dependencies aren't leaking. But what I would love to do is try and get AI to almost close our bug cycles. So if we can get to a point where I've got an MCP for Freshdesk, a ticket comes into Freshdesk from a client with a bug in it. It triggers our AI to go and find the bug in the code, try and patch it, create a pull request, after it's already sent it through automated tests. So therefore, even if it fixes only 1 in 10 bugs That's 10% saving for us of manual support time every month. But you'll still need humans to triage it at the end of the day, but let's just leave the machine to do the boring work that people hate doing. Our devs hate doing bug fixing. It's not fun. So yeah, that's how we've sort of evaluated everything on all of our departments. And these are sort of the next parts of my vision. So I talked about ProdBot, PRD, product. What I want is to create a ecosystem for anyone in any part of our company to be able to ask any question to a Slack channel, and it will look at all these different things where we've got information about a project and be able to answer it. So, excuse me. So, let's say it's like, what has Anthony promised this person in the sales pitch that we now can't deliver because the price is too low? Well, they can get the answer to that question, and I won't be able to hide behind it because it'll have all the call recordings, it'll have the notes from my meeting, and it'll have a copy of the supplier agreement that demonstrates what we promised them. They'll be able to look at support tickets and say, have we had this bug before? Yes, all right, well, how did we fix it the last time? What's the difference between it now and then? And I'll be able to get those sort of questions. What did the client say about this particular nuanced feature on a call 6 weeks ago that we've forgotten about? Well, what's actually the detail of that we now need to bring up because finally we've got to that point in the project now. So this, I mean, again, this isn't to talk about AI, but we need to build out our own model or our own workflow using something like, I don't know, Flowise or N8, something like that, which plugs MCPs into all these sort of things. We need to then give it context and, we'll then give it prompts on how to process information, but hopefully we'll get to a point where this just becomes everything for our team, and therefore we can not reduce the noise, but just reduce the amount of just toing and froing and delays in conversations and communications. And then for our team, I want to do the same. Just let's build the ultimate HR bot, right? We're a small team. We don't have a HR department. Well, if someone wants to know how to apply for leave or if they're new, or what is the sick leave policy, or who do I ask what to, connecting back to our project archive, so hopefully our other bot, the two bots will talk to each other, we can have this single place where people can just talk, communicate, and it'll probably get stuff wrong for a long time, and it'll hallucinate a lot, but over time that quality will improve, we'll test it, we'll train it, and slowly we'll build out something that just makes us much more effective across the whole. And that's it. And there's me as an AI. But yeah, this is just the start. This is like 2 months worth of us suddenly going through this process. And we're only really just scratching the surface. So we've got a long way to go to continue more of this, and AI is still in its infancy, really. That's what we were just talking about, right? We still really don't have a clue what the opportunity is yet. So, and we just remember to say please, so Skynet doesn't pick you off first, right? So, and that's it. Done.
Can I have a seat?
Oh, I sit down all day. I'm not too bothered.
Okay, so Q&A. I'm going to make a start. Indulge me if you will. Business support, you know that's what I do. But besides grants, besides money, if you had a magic wand and you could direct us in terms of what business support in terms of AI automation would help a business, is that training? Is that, I don't know, assessment in a business? What are your thoughts there?
Well, yeah, so we were just talking about this earlier, so I see a massive opportunity for companies, not new companies, to exist that are AI consultancies, and they are focused on how do companies utilise these things better, because as we were talking earlier about data, one of the biggest things is how can companies find data within their business AI has a better impression of the answers
It's
than me.
listening to you already.
But finding where they can find data within their business, making that data accessible to tools and things like that, so then they can use it. Like I just said, there's about 10 tools that we use. Can I make that information available to AI? And therefore, I mean, we're not even talked about privacy and security. I daren't touch that. Prod that bet. But
No, thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
sorry. To answer the question is, how can you get more? So I see that was it your council? They've got some funding for people learning to use AI, right? For things like social media and stuff. It's like, what's the next stage? How can they get more AI, build their own little agents like I'm looking at talking about to help with their whatever their business processes are?
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're almost like, there's two ends of the spectrum, and most people, everyone's heard of AI, but most people are scratching the surface. We're in the AI adoption curve, we're really at the beginning, but then you've got people like, the distance who are pushing the boundaries, and it'd be interesting to know a timeline of when you think this will be ready. Will it be a year? Will it be less than a year? So when you become Skynet at that point, you become automated completely. Whereas businesses still haven't even got business automation. They still haven't got, they're using AI because they're using maybe ChatGPT, maybe using a little bit of Teams automation, but that's it. So there's a huge gap between.
But I mean, that basic bit, right? That's a huge improvement.
It is.
Like just people using ChatGPT to just ask questions rather than Google. I mean, Gemini's there too, but that's going to make people efficient without any training. So
Okay, so something around the education piece still.
yeah,
Okay.
confidence I think is.
Okay.
Knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they don't know what you can use. You've mentioned 20 tools there. None of us know, most of us don't know what those are. But
It's not just me.
Yeah. but
I pretend I do.
Yeah, but I get asked the question all the time, how do I find the tool that is specific, or ChatGPT variant? Ask ChatGPT. Give me the tool for my industry that'll do this and that. It'll give you 10.
But I think
Gonna try
that's going to be part of the problem, right? There is a wave. There is a SaaS AI product coming out every minute.
Yes.
So finding the good ones, it's going to take a while before they come to the surface, and we need people. So for example, I talked about MCPs there, about these things, these magical connectors that are going to join everything up. I posted something on LinkedIn a few days ago, but Docker, you want to know what Docker is, right? So Docker are bringing out their MCP library.
Right.
So basically they're going to quality control MCP. So anyone can write an MCP, literally, like I could get Cursor to write me a HubSpot MCP in 5 minutes. And the way you plug your MCP into your AI is you just go, well, just go and reference their GitHub, and I'm going to trust that the code between my private stuff over there and my AI is good. It literally, one dodgy commit into there and that data goes to some person that shouldn't have it. So I'm quite pleased to see someone like Docker start to go, hang on, we're going to make sure the MCPs you're using are safe. So...
And interestingly, you mentioned Otter AI. We now ban that in our meetings because it's open AI. So we are quite nervous about using that.
Yeah. I'll turn it off.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? Yeah, gentleman at the back.
Hi Anthony, thank you. Great presentation. So
Thanks.
a couple of questions in the app space. With all these tools becoming available, like you mentioned Lovable and all that, where do you see the space going, and then how does that impact price? And then
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing it, right? There is Lovable, there is insert another dozen like Lovable, there's Bolt. Tempo I'm quite a fan of, quite like Tempo. It's going to make, so we were talking about this again earlier, it's like students could be churning out a new version of Twitter over a weekend. It's going to mean the entry point for people creating MVPs, or at least product market test type apps. There is no market for doing that sort of stuff really anymore. People can do it in their bedroom over the week. So that price point is going to come right down. Building a quality product is still a very different game. So as I had long debate today in our team is we can't be fighting to that bottom. There is already the tools. If we're going to cookie cutter everything, we don't have any business. We're not delivering any value. So our value is turning the idea, validating it, quality testing it, all those sort of things. building UI functionality, you can do that overnight. So there is going to be this divide, but that price point for entry-level MVP products is just gone. Like any startup type business is like, unless they're doing real idea validation, user testing, and everything else, building that little bit of prototyping is it's not a lot of space for it now.
Okay, the gentleman here.
Yeah, I mean, very impressed indeed, and I mean, we've been starting to use AI in various aspects of the business, including development and sales and so on. And just at the point of considering, well, we could upload, we could create our own model with our tone of voice, as you said, and with all of our previous quotes and documentation, and our Confluence and Jira and everything, which is so it's amazing to have those ideas validated by what you've said. You kind of framed your work and your company as being behind the curve, which I think is you just being modest. Are you aware of have you come across any agencies or any app developers that are kind of examples that you aspire to? Have you come across anyone who's ahead of you?
There's probably companies talking the same sort of stuff as us. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are. Not everyone's that open about it. There's some good consultancies offering to get people along this way. There's a good company called Ben, random name, but I think they're from the Netherlands, and he's doing a lot of great content. So it seems to be him as a consultant and probably a team in India, but they're basically building out all those sort of things for people. And he puts loads of great content on LinkedIn, showing you how to, within a day, build exactly what you were just talking about, for example, a CRM, integration with your calendar, everything else, how to do it overnight in NAN. So worth checking out, Ben.
Just a gentleman over here, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what you said about Lovable, I tried some of those softwares and this bolt later data button as well, and I'm one of those that doesn't know how to code whatsoever, and has always sort of not wanted to, but wanted to be able to build an app. And you said earlier though as well that it's in its infancy now, the AI, and you also said, like, I've tried to build these in Lovable and they just don't work for me, there's bugs, the rest of it. But do you also worry that as they get more sophisticated, maybe these companies think out quality testing and like the back end better? Do you worry about that for your business, or are you?
Oh yeah, that's why we're doing all this.
Right, okay.
Because we've got to keep ahead of it. Because as we just sort of highlighted, those tools exist, right?
Yeah.
So people are coming after our clients. But so I was talking to someone the other day, and one of our clients, and he has the choice. So he's about to get some investment. His investors have a development partner that they're recommending. We've been introduced as an alternative choice, and my price point is going to be 2 or 3 times probably what that is, because it's an offshore company that whatever. But their reply is, we actually might just try and build it ourselves. And they want to build a whole marketplace platform for people having their high-end goods refurbished. So it's not a simple, I'm just going to build a chat interface or a community. And they're confident that they reckon they can probably go and try and do it. You're probably hacked the week after and taken down. But so yeah, it's somewhere in between. We have to stay on the edge. From the distance perspective, our value is in helping the customer on the journey to get to where they are. It's not what it used to be is about us being developers and building apps, because that we were there at the start of the market. Now it's more about finding the right tools to build the right thing and the right product for you, rather than just building whatever it is, because anyone can just build anything now. Yes, as you just said, Bolt and all these things, they fail a lot. They're not great, but they will get better. So
Distance 2.0.
try Tempo. Tempo has the product side of it first, so it does mermaid diagrams, for example. So it works out structure, so it takes you more of a workflow to get you to build an app before just going, write one prompt and I'll just create you a dating app, for example.
It's in one shot,
Yeah, it guides you through the process a bit better.
Quick.
Yeah. I'm going to push back a little bit on that. Everything you said is fantastic, but I think one of your USPs is that you have got those fantastic clients. Remember when I used to work with you years ago? You've got some really good clients. They're not going to just trust any kid in the bedroom building an app because they can. And I appreciate they can, but they're not. They're going to come to you because they've always come to you because they trust you, your business, your security, all the stack. What you're right in saying is you need to keep ahead of the curve and offer them at different price points because they're seeing it being built elsewhere, but they're going to keep coming back to you all the time.
But
It's
at the same time,
relationships.
instead of them needing a whole dev team, they'll need a smaller dev team and some more AI prompty type guys who can
You
do then a
do,
lot
yes,
more.
you
No,
do.
they can
No,
do it.
they just want a client. They just
Yes,
want
of
a
course.
provider.
Yeah,
They
the
want
right
you.
customers will just deliver. Sure.
The fact that you're economising and you're making efficiencies and using AI makes it more efficient. So rather than taking 9 months to produce a product, it's going to take you 3 months.
Yes.
You know, and that's what they want to pay.
Yeah.
But I think the relationship is still key in most UK businesses.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what we're selling, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Our brand is, our strapline is, do you want an app or an experience? We're not just churning out features and functionality all day long.
So I think you're fine.
Okay, leave that there. Tim?
Hi, thanks. Firstly, I have to say that the array of activity you've put through the business in terms of all those efficiencies driven by automation, AI variously, it is really impressive.
Thank you.
I
I
mean,
mean, the guys are scared stiff
you
about.
say you've done it in
things,
2 or 3 months. I mean, yeah, that's borderline,
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm a bit crazy.
So, well done. However, I guess it does make me wonder, so on the basis that you've managed to achieve that and are set to achieve more, clearly, and in this room you could argue that there could be here 40 or 50 other digital agencies who go, yeah, we should do that.
Yeah.
My question really comes along, where does any of that leave us in terms of the matter of differentiation? So if everything in ultimately the market's about time, quality, speed, as it always has been, probably always will be, and everyone can achieve that to some degree or another, where does that leave any of us with differentiation, which is clearly a very important construct in any market?
Well, I think the bottom line is there's going to be a lot less agencies in the world. A lot less, because unless they're doing this sort of stuff. Originally that slide, my first slide, which had the horrible figures on, I had a load of gravestone. It was a picture of a gravestone. And my wife told me that was completely inappropriate. And I also had the logos of the companies that we'd lost in the last few years. And she said that was also inappropriate. But, I mean, that's the rate that the last few years have been affecting us. So the way we're going to differentiate is by having this sort of technology and being able to deliver it as effectively. But the real value, like Andrew highlighted, is it's the client relationship. That's where they're going to be paying for the value that you add, not the ones and the zeros. So, and you can it's not easy to always prove up front, but that you've got to do that through reputation and portfolio and awards, I guess, if you want to play that card.
Ultimately, people buy from people.
But yeah, AI is not going to replace the people, right?
What value do you add?
What value do I add? You ask my team, nothing. And the sooner I get made redundant by AI, the better.
I suppose it's a question for anybody who's
Yeah.
running the same strategy. And obviously, I think there's a huge amount of value in being able to advise on what AI tools to use and keeping on top of them. Put all that aside in the future, what's your secret sauce?
Well,
Why are you participants?
Ours is experience, right? So, for example, there's a company who wants to build a dating app right now, and they come and like, yep, we've got the funding, we're going to go and build this dating app, and we've been on every dating app, here's the USP, and I'm like, okay, well, we built a dating app in the past, it had tons of money behind it, have you done this, that, the other, have you thought about this, how was your track, what is the 4th time your user is going to open the app likes experience, and how are you going to get into that 4th time? Because we can all get anyone into it first time and just spend money on clickbait, right? It's making sure the customer's spending the money in the right areas. So that call, I then said, have you gone and downloaded this one app that I do know about, which is exactly what their USP is? And he went, no. I said, well, that's had millions behind it and is failing. Should you really go and spend money on this app? I spend more time telling customers not to build apps than I actually do take their money.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
my MD doesn't like that, but
Go on, yeah.
Sorry, hi, thank you. Good afternoon, Anthony. Really enjoyed your talk. Really transparent, really honest. It's really refreshing to hear that kind of tone of voice in a presentation like this, especially for a man of your experience and delivery as well. My question concerns cybersecurity and your debugging. You mentioned obviously sync and solo queue there. Just as like a trade-off between the abundance of debugs and then the success rate of those applications being able to solve that problem, you used a reference of saying, I love AI vibe coding now. My background is not engineering, it's sales. I've worked in business-to-business tech sales for 12 years, and I'm now an engineer, but self-taught and poorly.
Self-taught vibe coder.
Yeah, exactly. But I have to, because it's the only thing that's going to make me any money.
Sure.
So, but that is the issue that I encounter the most, because my estimation is that you bleed the tokens dry and the AI gets tired. Especially with OpenAI, for about 120,000 tokens, its accuracy just dwindles.
Yeah.
And then the new
Mine got tired at the weekend.
Yeah. And I think actually if you refresh the chat per day and keep it, I won't waffle, I'll keep it in. Sorry. My point being,
We can talk about it afterwards.
yeah, definitely. You mentioned about debugging. What is the success rate of using those tools for quality assurance and cybersecurity against the trade-off? Because then you said, the example you gave was, I found an issue, you just took me 3 hours, I solved it in 15 minutes, but then I found another issue and that took me 8 hours. So what is that success rate?
So I can't answer that question because this is still very, very old, but it's an interesting conversation we had today. So us getting stuff done with vibe coding is very quick. My 3 hour ticket is a nice bit of greenfield stuff. So it doesn't have any problem with it. It just goes, oh, okay, I know best practice, there's best practice. The 8 hour ticket that should have been a bug is a bug because of something in Expo that our guys, vibe coding won't fix that bug. Our senior developer of 7 years took all day to try and fix an issue because the splash screen appeared after the app opened. Like, this is rudimental stuff that should just work, but comes up, if you're an engineer, you know that random shit happens. And you lose 8 hours fixing it. And vibe coding will only get so far in that sort of situation. Like, it's good at, like, I've been using it a lot, and it'll just look at, it always tries to make things better, even though I don't want it to. And then I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, all right, that is probably better. So I accept it and accept my flaws. But in nuanced stuff, it just can't do it. It's got a good idea, but when you get something that's a bug, it's going to be, if it's a bug in a typo, it'll find that typo faster than any human possibly can. So, yeah, it's hard to judge right now, but it'll get better. The more, like you talked about, it's about the memory and the context, and the more it, like you say, it gets tired, but the more it works on the same stuff, the more accurate it will get. So, like us, we use the core. Every project's written with a core, so therefore it knows what our tech stack looks like, and it will be more accurate at finding problems. And for us, our sync and SonarCube are improving our tech stack, which then we improve every project rather than just that one client's project. That bug is going to be ubiquitous across all of our clients.
I'm going to let you pick up with Anthony after on the detail there. I think, Matt, we've just got time for one more question.
Yes, it follows on pretty much from your answer you gave there. So I wear lots of hats in a business, and similar to you, I've tried to implement AI tools for lots of very specific niche tasks. Sometimes it's great, it saves me loads of time. Sometimes it leads you down a rabbit hole that you just
waste
end up
hours.
having to back out of. But it's good at giving you maybe a template or a skeleton or a framework which you can then build on. I was quite interested though in the Slack channels you mentioned, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, because from a sort of high level business perspective, we've all seen the memes where it says this is what the client thought they described, this is what the client actually described, this is what the salesperson sold them, this is what product designed, and this is what the developer built, and this is what the budget afforded. So I think if you can tie
this is what
everything
the AI
together
then
in a
determined.
Slack channel, and actually have the developer create a PR and have a bot that actually reviews the code and says that's great, but that's not actually what Anthony sold the client. And the client actually
That's
asked
nice.
this,
Yeah, I like it.
product design this.
Doing that, I'll make a note.
Is that how you see it working? And if so,
yeah,
there's,
that's 100% what I think.
yeah, but there's no specific tools out there that I'm aware of that will do that from that.
Yeah,
high
but
level.
that-
So are you writing these yourself?
So to build those sort of things, we'll have to build our own workflow, right? So this is still I'm going to wing this one, but try and explain it because I haven't proved it yet. But you'll build something out in something like Flowwise, which is an open source product, and you basically just join the dots, right? But each of those dots you then add with other things. So it's almost like a filter. So you say, here's my Slack channel, or here's my commercial document, and here's the other thing. And then you stick more prompts in between for saying, okay, there's the data. I want you to process it like this. So for example, our supplier agreement is 26 pages long of legal bollocks. And then 3 pages of actually the thing the customer cares about, right? And so I can tell, there's my commercial document, here's my prod bot, just look at that section of our commercials, because that's actually the only bit where you're going to get the value, rather than getting dragged into all the others where you're going to hallucinate because there's much more words and numbers and everything else. So we'll try and curate it with those extra prompts and maybe models. So we might add extra models that are experts at reading commercial documents. So I'll run it through the commercial model before we then prompt it back into our system. Well, that's what I hope.
It's interesting, isn't it?
But I like your idea of actually getting...
And not just at the PR level.
Getting the
even
developers
with product
to...
developing, designing the documents as well. If during the whole process, there's that someone's just AI sitting at the top, just overseeing everything and going, that's not quite what...
Yeah, well, so an example, I did try and get it to do that the other day. So I'm vibe coding a little product for ourselves, and there's a feature doc written, and I've built the CMS interface for this thing. And I just went, go and check the documentation to see if I've done it right. And it gave me a long breakdown of, yes, you did. I don't actually know if I trust it, but I was quite happy when it said, yeah, you're doing good, well done.
Oh, fantastic.
But I like
Thank
it,
you,
it's a good
Anthony.
idea.
That's been brilliant. Let's have a round of applause for Anthony.